Hello and welcome to a Friday Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together live for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time, bright and early on a Friday morning, to look back on a playoff-filled Thursday night in sports, game number 2 of the Western Conference Finals in the association in Oklahoma City. Game number 2 on the ice in the Eastern Conference Finals in Raleigh, where both games, frankly, were lopsided affairs. What it means for the remainder of both of those conference final sets, that's what we break down for you here on this Friday. It is also a Friday morning, DRS, our final day before a long holiday weekend. We're off Memorial Day Monday. We hope all of you enjoy this long holiday weekend, the unofficial kickoff to summer. We hope the barbecues are great and the weather is warm, but we'll set the stage for a long weekend filled with a ton of sports action over these 3 hours live right here on TEL.
Absolutely. A big Friday to get the people ready for, which includes some NBA action, as Ben pointed out. Major League Baseball, by the way, come on now. Give me the heat back. Good. Yeah. It's 61 degrees tonight. I'm happy with that, which how badly the rain has been falling here in the Northeast and colder temperatures in the northern cities and also here in the Northeast. It's been bad. So hopefully we do start to break out. I know on Sunday and Monday, we'll start to get into those 70s here, which means Major League Baseball, travel further in the heat. That's what we're looking forward to. But also an MVP was given out and an MVP performance was given out to the public last night in the form of SGA. So we're ready to go. It's Friday. It's what we do.
Yeah, DRS, let's start right there. We always joke death taxes. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, more than 29, but fewer than 35 points. Not last night. The juiced-up MVP, after earning the hardware officially on Wednesday night for the first time in his career, came out and delivered a 38-point performance out of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as the Thunder roll once again in game number 2 of the Western Conference Finals. 15-point victory for Oklahoma City at home to take a commanding 2-0 series advantage over Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. 118-103, the Thunder cover as an 8-point home favorite. A total of 217 and a hook does Sky over. But the Thunder led by 38 points from the MVP, SGA, up by 2 in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and you take a look and say, all right, what are some of those secondary options here that can help you out on OKC? How about Jalen Williams, 26 points? How about Chet Holmgren, 22 points? How about 38 for the lead dog, SGA? And you might say to yourself, all right, well, Julius Randle was sensational in game number 1, coming into his own. Yeah, how about a 2 of 11 performance in game number 2 and only 6 points? As a matter of fact, 3 starters in the starting lineup for the Minnesota Timberwolves, 6, 5, and 3. That's not good enough. I thought Minnesota would be game at the 7.5. I wasn't correct. The one thing I did know last night, though, Anthony Edwards is not going to shoot the basketball 13 times. He was going to press it down and say, hey, if we lose, it's not because I wasn't aggressive and I didn't score enough points. He drops 32 easily, hitting his total. But the rest of the team, you got to help your superstar out. And Julius Randle, nowhere to be found.
Doubled those field goal attempts, DRS, with 26 for the Ant-Man, but not exactly his best shooting night. 1 of 9 from beyond the arc. Julius Randle, 0 from three-point range and only 6 points. You can't have one good performance with a bad performance out of your 2 best players, as we have seen for the Timberwolves in the opening 2 games of this series. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you saw it there, holding the MVP hardware before last night, a ceremony crown before the start of game number 2, delivered with an MVP caliber performance, a game-high 38 points. The Thunder now, that 2-0 series advantage, they have won both of the first 2 games in this set by at least 15 points. And Donnie, strong starts to the second half for OKC in each. They won the third quarter last night by 14 in total. They ended that stanza on a 25-8 run. Plenty more around the Western Conference Finals. And if this series is destined for maybe just 5 games, that will be the conversation in just a matter of moments. But a dominant performance also in the game number 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals in the Stanley Cup postseason, DRS. And it's been all dominance for the Florida Panthers against their Eastern Conference foe in the Carolina Hurricanes. These 2 clubs meeting up twice now in the last 3 Eastern Conference Finals. And Florida so far has won all 6 games. A 5 6-0 blowout last night on the road, on road ice, as Florida takes that 2-0 series advantage, winning both games in Raleigh.
Again, just being a fan of Carolina, you've seen a lot of good hockey over the past decade or so, let's call it. And you're like, oh, we're in the Eastern Conference Finals, a chance to go to the Stanley Cup. Yes, we lost game number 1. Let's get energized. Let's get in the building. Let's have some fun. And at the end of the first period, it was 3-0, the Panthers. You couldn't even enjoy yourself here as a Carolina Hurricanes fan. Now you go back, home ice advantage is towards the Panthers. They're up 2-0. The only question is, not for me, Ben, if the Panthers are going to advance back to a Stanley Cup final. It's, will we actually go back to Carolina to play a hockey game? Florida's been that dominant to open this series.
DRS, it's kind of insane, this stat I'm about to deliver. The Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup in 2006. They have reached the Eastern Conference Finals now 4 times since that point, including this year, 2009, 2019, 2023, 2025. They have now lost 14 consecutive games in the conference finals, swept the previous 3 times, and off to an 0-2 start here. The college football playoff for 2025, a change in the format. Instead of a guaranteed opening round bye for the 4 highest-ranked conference champs, we will go straight seeding for the 12 teams that reach the CFB. Still the 5 highest-ranked conference champions get that automatic berth to the college football playoff. But from that point on, DRS, straight seeding. It's what people asked for at the end of our first 12-team college football playoff. It's what we will have for 2025.
Look, you know what, and I didn't even have a problem last year, Ben, with the seeding here. It eventually works its way out. The best team is going to win. But I understand what they're trying to do. But do you remember last year, like the seeding was, hey, congratulations being the higher seed. You know what you get? A neutral site game against a good football team. Like, what the hell did I work so hard for to actually get a higher seed when I don't even get to play in my own building? It's going back to see, like, Penn State ended up beating Boise State. You know what would be really cool? Penn State having to go up to Boise State and play on the blue turf.
For sure.
Never got that there, which is an absolute shame here. I like what they're doing. We're moving in smaller increments. We knew the seeding was an issue, but again, if you were going to reward the higher seeds, put them at home, which again brings up no bowl games in the college football playoff. Everybody plays a home game as a higher seed until you get to the championship. What's wrong with that? It's the perfect solution. We'll get there. We will get there. Trust me.
DRS, we'll discuss it a little bit later on, revenue being the thing that holds back that idea. And we're probably going to 14 or 16 teams and a completely different change starting in 2026. Plenty more on that conversation a little bit later on in this opening hour. The Denver Nuggets have made it official. Interim to permanent head coach David Adelman becomes the official head coach for the Nuggets.
Yeah, he'll be a fantastic coach in Atlanta in about 4 or 5 years. So there's that.
Okay, interesting. The Philadelphia Phillies, some good. They win 7 straight, completing a 4-game sweep of the Colorado Rockies inside Coors Field. But some bad. The Rockies now 8-42 DRS, the worst start for a team through 50 games in MLB history.
Take the team out of Colorado, move them to Nashville wants a baseball team, Carolina wants a baseball team, so we don't have to play in this Mickey Mouse elevation where nobody wants to play at. No surprise for me, they stink.
The Rockies normally pretty good at home. The offense kind of lagging this year, which leads to a historically bad start in Major League Baseball. Good news for the Braves. Ronald Acuna Jr. expected to make his season debut on this Friday for Atlanta. The 2023 NL MVP, of course, tore his ACL about a year ago last season.
Yeah, and by the way, Ronald Acuna, did he need to score more than 7 runs to beat the Nationals? Looks like pitching might be a problem in Atlanta, not the bats since last night. Goodness, man, come on.
The Braves return home to host the San Diego Padres this weekend. A couple of WNBA scores from last night. The New York Liberty hammer the Sky in Chicago. The reigning champs, a perfect 2-0. The Indiana Fever win a road game on the road in Atlanta. More on the Override next. Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side
DRS.
with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn
they've ever
Ewers.
got to Texas.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it be
very
Quinn
clear
Ewers'
the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick,
Quinn
Arch
Ewers'
Manning is
team.
not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong.
I
It
just
is
told
incorrect.
you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm
you're
buying
doing
him
your
because
thing now
I
where you
expect him to
double
have
down on a
decent
tape
season. No, I'm
that
not
is
doing that.
incorrect
The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a 7th-round
There were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback
Stop
recruits
it.
in the history
Stop
of the
it.
sport.
Quinn
Vince
Ewers couldn't
Young
even play at
and
Ohio
Quinn
State.
Ewers.
He couldn't even play at
Vince
Ohio
Young and
State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
In their first Western Conference Finals appearance in nearly a decade, since 2016, this young Thunder core looks very comfortable on the most significant stage they have seen in 9 years. The Oklahoma City Thunder have opened a 2-0 series advantage in the Western Conference Finals over the Minnesota Timberwolves. In both of the 2 wins for OKC, DRS to start off this set have been in commanding fashion. A 26-point victory in game number 1, a 15-point win last night in game number 2, 118-103. The Thunder closed as an 8-point home favorite, despite most of the betting public expecting the Timberwolves to keep this game close, at least in terms of the spread last night. OKC covers in their second consecutive game in the Western Conference Finals, and a total closing at 217 and a hook does sky over. A 38-point performance from the man you see there on your screen, the now NBA MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. OKC DRS up 2-0, now just 2 wins away from a berth in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, disheartening there if you're looking and you back the Minnesota Timberwolves. Not only do you take a loss in game number 2 on the money line, if you took them to win outright, you take a loss on the 7.5 to 8.5, depending on when you got that line, but also just really a demoralizing loss overall because you said to yourself, what has to change? Well, everybody needs to play well. We get that. I need my superstar to drop more than 25 points. He gets the 32. And the game just wasn't even close in the second half because you couldn't even hold a candle to what OKC was doing in the third quarter. That's when adjustments were made. It wasn't even like, Ben, hey, we had a great first half. You're still down 8 points at the break. You didn't have a great first half. Matter of fact, you were close and then let it slip away over the final couple of minutes of the second quarter to make that an 8-point advantage. So your momentum was gone there. Then 35-21 in the third quarter, and away it goes. But also just building off of like the praise you're giving Julius Randle. Hey, stepping into his own, finally away from the Knicks. He's showing he could be a superstar, saying all the right things. I just want to win in big games. And then you come out in game number 2 where you need everybody, all hands on deck, where you can't afford to go down 0-2. And he goes 2 of 11 from the floor, 0 for 3 from three-point range, minus 15 on the night, and only 6 total points. Jaden McDaniels steps up with 22 points, but nobody else was really helping. And yes, Alexander Walker got the 17 points. That's fine. Dante DiVincenzo scored 8, but Dante DiVincenzo off the bench was a minus 27. Understand this. The Timberwolves aren't as good as the Oklahoma City Thunder. We understand that. 68 wins in the regular season, number 1 overall seed, home court advantage. You're supposed to be up 2-0 heading back to Minnesota. You were favored in both of those games, but just a little bit disheartening heading back to Minnesota with hey, kitchen sink game in game number 3, but really, can we hold up, I should say, to OKC? I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, Donnie, it's such a good point, right? Oklahoma City, best team in the NBA all year long, 68-14. The NBA championship favorites entering the postseason, the minus money Western Conference title favorites as well. This was what we expected out of the Thunder, despite the lack of playoff experience on these significant stages. Of course, as we shared, this Thunder core, led by Mark Daigneault, led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, with Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, had not been here just yet. Minnesota had their second consecutive season in the Western Conference Finals. So we thought some of that playoff experience for Anthony Edwards and the T-Wolves would at least make this series competitive. Hasn't been the case so far. And Donnie, for most of the opening 18 minutes of the game, opening 20 minutes of the game, a quarter and a half, this was pretty tight. OKC starts to pull away late in that second quarter. They take an 8-point lead at the break. They win the third quarter by 14, overwhelming Minnesota to start off the second half in a second consecutive game. They closed that third quarter, DRS, on a 25-8 run, did Oklahoma City, to take a 22-point lead into the fourth and final quarter. The T-Wolves battled. They cut it to 10 at a certain point, but never to single digits in those final 12 minutes, really representing how dominant the Thunder have been so far in these first two games. And it was one of the things that we talked about in that grueling 7-game set against the Denver Nuggets. Oklahoma City couldn't cover, and they were the best cover team in the association throughout the regular season. The Thunder have now been booked as a favorite of at least 5 points. In all 13 of their playoff games, they are 6-7 against the spread. And in all 6 covers for OKC, they have won each of those 6 games by at least 15 points.
Exactly. And you're saying to yourself, all right, here was my MO coming into the series. I thought Oklahoma City was going to win and cover in game number 1 because I said to myself, you know what? Still adrenaline that they have. They're in playoff mode. They're playing the other day, and it made sense. And they're on their home court. But I thought like Minnesota was like maybe a little bit of a detriment. Rest is never a bad thing, but sometimes when you're in playoff mode, you just want to play the very next day or the day after that because of how good you're feeling. But I thought then you'd be back on even footing once you got to game number 2. All right, Minnesota, you didn't play well in game number 1. You're used to the building, same hotel. Now you're in the same rhythm as Oklahoma City. No extra rest here. You should have your legs under you. And for the performance that we got, because again, it wasn't bad in the first half. It was just really bad in the third quarter. You just can't score 21 points in a third quarter. You have a close basketball game where you need to close that lead as opposed to get it extended on you. And it was over by the end of the third quarter. Now, granted, you won the fourth quarter by 7 points, but the game was already out of whack and out of balance at that point. Just a 15-point win. Was it an extreme blowout, 35 points? No, it wasn't. But if I'm looking now to say, how do I jump back in on the Minnesota Timberwolves? I'm having a tough time outside of saying, boy, if you lose game number 3, the series is over. But again, the number 1 team in the NBA is supposed to be doing these things to a lower seed. I don't have a lot of confidence in the Timberwolves like I should for game number 3. Hey, they'll get it together. Who's going to get it together?
Yeah, Donnie, such a good point. It was part of the reason we broke down this game, calling it very critical for Minnesota. Obviously, to steal one on the road would be tremendous, but just keep this game close to maybe even force a 6th game in this series. You and I thought Minnesota would keep this series tight, would keep game 2 competitive as well. I bet the T-Wolves getting 8 points last night. I did not expect a 15-point win for OKC. I did expect the Thunder to win this series, and that's what we're seeing. And Donnie, you were spot on. We needed more out of Anthony Edwards. He said after game 1, I have to just shoot the ball more. He did 26 times, scoring 32 points. But when the MVP is fired up for winning that MVP award and gets to hoist the hardware in front of the home crowd ahead of game 2 of a conference finals, you know he is going to come out and deliver, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did. 38 points last night, 13 of 15 from the charity stripe. Call him a foul merchant or a good guy at getting to the free throw line. He does take advantage in a 38-point performance, plus at least 20 points from Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. OKC cruises. We'll hear from Shai on the other side of the break. You're on the early line.
buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. That's a joke, but how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams needed a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good in any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today with Hunter Brown winning the American Cy Young Award. I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
The Oklahoma City Thunder up 2-0 in the Western Conference Finals, now just 2 wins away from a berth in the NBA Finals for the first time since 2012. And for this young core, led by head coach Mark Daigneault, and of course now an MVP winner in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, performing on a stage in a big way they had not been in quite some time. Let's hear from the MVP, who was able to hoist the hardware last night in front of the home crowd in OKC ahead of game number 2.
Shai, you obviously had that wonderful moment last night with your teammates. What did it feel like for you to be out there at midcourt and receiving that award and then to go out and play the way you did?
Yeah, it felt really good. I feel like my emotions were like so high that I was like a little bit like tired out there, especially to start. I was like a little too juiced up. But yeah, special moment. I'm happy we won so I can like really enjoy the last couple of days and soak it all up. That really helps. But yeah, shout out to the team. Played well again tonight and head to Minnesota up 2-0.
Pretty well summed up right there, DRS, by the MVP, SGA, in a game-high 38 points last night, clearing his 31.5 points prop in game number 2.
Yeah, how about that? Looks like he's about to shoot a video with Usher right there. You know what I mean? Yes, it
Whoa.
that I look at you. I mean, come on, man. Exactly. We don't know the words. Yeah, exactly.
But
I
like
mean,
maybe
he looks
but
good right
maybe
there.
disavow Usher.
Yeah.
Just while
he
certain
likes it
things are happening.
my way. Oh, man, come on now. I mean, the guy was planting these seeds yesterday. It was fantastic. But having said this, I understand where he's coming from. Anybody ever played a sport, you're really excited for a game, whether it's basketball or particularly football. I used to get a kick out of this. You'd be so excited to play. You'd want to run 5-yard out and be like, I felt like I just ran a marathon. How am I going to play 65 to 70 more plays at this point? Good to see he calmed down, played a great game. But yeah. I see where he's coming from. Like, I was never the MVP of anything per se, but, right. You know, you still get ultimate athletes get tired on the first play and understand, man, we got a long way to go right now. So understand what SGA was going through there. And he was fantastic last night. Got it together in a big way.
My co-host, Donnie Rightside, an impeccable ability to take the highest of athletic achievement and correlated to his D3 playing days as a wide receiver at WP. After the MVP performs like an MVP, that's DRS. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander seemingly close to adding another trophy to the mantle in his home. He is a minus 1,000 favorite, Donnie Rightside, to win Western Conference Finals MVP with his Thunder team up 2-0 in this Western Conference Finals. Minus 1,000, and really, how can you fault the odds makers? 31 for Shea in game number 1, a game-high 38 points last night.
Yeah, and by the way, just taking a look at the Western Conference Finals number for Oklahoma City to advance, it's minus 2,200. So to be honest, like, I would never pay a minus 1,000. He's going to get that. So do you want to actually take the minus 22? Hey, he might get hurt, which again, anybody can get hurt, but it seems like a minus 1,000. If there's any time to say, Ben, that could be a bargain, boy, it feels like a bargain right now after 2 games.
Yes, it certainly does, DRS, because I don't understand how Oklahoma City would win this series in 4 or 5 games and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander not win the Western Conference Finals MVP hardware. Again, if you're going to lay a hefty price in some form or fashion for OKC to have success, that is your better number, because as Donnie laid out, in comparison to the Thunder's number to win this series in advance to the NBA Finals, minus 2,200 for OKC. They were minus 750 entering game 2 last night. They were minus 375 entering game number 1. And Donnie, you can see the expectation there. The Thunder laying 2.5 games in the series spread, now heavily juiced at minus 230. For OKC to cover that, they would have to win in 5. And so for OKC to win in 5, you see that number, plus 176. We both thought this might get to at least 6 in a tightly contested series. It is really trending to being done sooner rather than later.
It is, but also understand this. The optics of, boy, we're not feeling good about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Maybe they don't win the series. You're not going to beat OKC 4 out of 5 games. I think we get that. But that doesn't mean that you can't, bite off a little bit more than you could chew by winning a game number 3 to get back into the series. Heavy favorites where OKC on their home court, rightfully so, as the series shifts back to Minnesota. Not so heavy favorites here. So there's a chance it's a kitchen sink game, but just watching those first 2 games, there's no surprise. We weren't surprised OKC is sitting here, a 2-0 series lead in the Western Conference Finals. They're supposed to do that, as opposed to like the Pacers or the Knicks, like, hey, they're lucky to be here at this point, right? Not the case here with OKC. They're better, they'll win, but can we get a game number 3 rise up? That's all.
We'll take an early look at game 3 on Saturday next.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those 2 teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where 2 of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
You are a Pirates fan. I don't think you've got a reason good enough for me to be wearing Mets stuff when the Mets are playing the Pirates right now. I don't think I'm gonna go, okay, I see it at the end of your explanation.
I'm gonna put it on Vinny. I'm gonna put it on all the Mets fans. The Pirates won 2 in a row. They fired the manager over the weekend. A new era of Pirates baseball has begun.
Game time decisions. only on SportsGrid.
The Oklahoma City Thunder now just 2 wins away from a berth in the NBA Finals. Will it happen quickly? In Minneapolis, game number 3, a change of venue for the first time in the Western Conference Finals tomorrow night in the Twin Cities, where Donnie alluded to this. OKC still a favorite, as they have been in all 13 playoff games so far on this postseason run, but every spread has been at least 5 points in favor of Oklahoma City. Tomorrow night, game number 3, kitchen sink. Minnesota needs everything to try to keep this series afloat for as long as possible. Just a 3-point home underdog. DRS, what is your early look at game number 3 tomorrow night?
I mean, it's pretty hard to sit back and say that, boy, I like the Minnesota Timberwolves at this point. They can get back into the series because I like the Minnesota Timberwolves heading into game number 2, and they didn't necessarily show up. You know, a lot of people tried hard in that game, but not a lot of good results here. Anthony Edwards put up that number. I knew he would get into the 30s, but didn't get any help from the secondary players. Now, having said that, you know me all along in the NBA and college basketball, you can say the same thing. The bench players always play better at home. You're cheered on by the home crowd. You're used to playing in that environment. You expect better results from those guys, like even like a Dante DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo's been around the block. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe I won't be at like a minus 30 in this game. I'll come out, knock down some 3-point shots, and we'll sort of survive, because you can't just have 1 or 2 players hold all the weight on offense. It just doesn't work. In particular, that might work if you have the number 1 seed because you are the best team, not if you're looking to knock off a number 1 seed. But when I look at that line, it opened up at the FanDuel Sportsbook at 2.5 as a favorite here in New Jersey to OKC. Quickly went to 3, and other outlets right now are showing a 3.5. That's just the public weighing in, saying, you're telling me now after watching the first 2 games, I just need to basically win a basketball game with OKC. I'm fine with that. But game number 3s typically are the most tricky, specifically when the home team already has home court advantage. They're up 2-0. You understand as a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, backer, front office, and player, you lose this game, the series is over. That does have an impact on that line, because if you do lose this game, even if you lose it by 2 points and you cover, you know what game 4 is? That's a whitewash for OKC, because Minnesota goes, we're not beating the top seed 4 straight games after we just lost 3 times. As a matter of fact, let me just get my summer vacation going before I even have to go back to OKC at this point. That's the way I look at it. So if I'm reading lines, I like the fact that it opened up at 2.5 and it's now sitting at 3.5, right? Because you're saying to yourself, that's the way it's supposed to go. I want to see where this line goes down by game time, because if you were looking to back again Minnesota, this is your last chance to do so. If they don't cover, probably means they didn't win. And then game number 4, I don't care what the number is, OKC smoked that basketball team.
It's a great point, DRS, and we love the FanDuel Sportsbook for a variety of reasons, but I really love when they have the betting stats of what is out there for how the public, or really anybody, is approaching the handicap for these games. Because yesterday, when we were live, about 52% of the bets were backing the Timberwolves as that road underdog to keep game 2 tightly contested. Line was 7.5 in favor of the Thunder. By the time we got the tip last night, more than 60% of the bets were backing Minnesota to keep the game competitive, and yet the line was working to OKC. What should that maybe have told you about where things stand? You saw the graphic there at 3.5. Currently live on FanDuel, it is 3. 66% of the bets backing Oklahoma City, DRS, again, as it could be understood, winning each of the first 2 games by 15 plus, to simply win by 4 tomorrow night in the Twin Cities, and yet the line, at least ever so slightly, by a half point, kind of working back to the T-Wolves. It will be interesting to see what the number is by the time we get to tip tomorrow night on a Saturday in Minneapolis. A change of venue, and Minnesota hoping to take advantage to keep this series going for as long as possible. DRS, I did not expect this to be the case, but there's a decent chance, especially depending on how Game 3 plays out tomorrow, that by the time we return on Tuesday, after a long holiday weekend here on the early line, this series could be over. Game number 4 in the Twin Cities on Memorial Day Monday.
Yeah, we also had a poll that we put out. What's more likely to happen? The Minnesota Timberwolves win the series or a sweep by OKC? Most people thought that was the Minnesota Timberwolves to win the series because we couldn't fathom a sweep at that point. I also understand, we are not unbelievable. I can't believe Minnesota didn't win one game in OKC. We're not here. It's up to you to even the score at home, or not even the score. How about win one out of the next 2 games on your home court in the playoffs in the Western Conference Finals, which then would take away the thought process of the sweep being eligible here for the Oklahoma City Thunder. But you are going to get a maximum effort out of the Timberwolves, understanding you lose this game, there is no tomorrow, the series is over, and the price point is going to reflect that. We'll just see where some of the sharper money comes in, because initially bumping that price higher, you see the 3.5 and say, well, they can't lose, but then you're taking a look at there's no wiggle room, like, hey, they're getting 7.5 points, lose by 5, no big deal. You have to win this game if you're Minnesota, and we'll see where the public is once this game gets closer to tip time.
And, of course, the Thunder now just 2 victories away from the NBA Finals, an even heavier favorite to win that Larry O'Brien trophy, greater than a $3 price with a minus in front, now minus 310. Donnie, we expected OKC to win the West really since the middle of February, but certainly entering this playoff run. We just thought on the other side it would be one of the behemoths of the Boston Celtics, the reigning NBA champs, for the East #1 seed in the Cleveland Cavaliers, proving their playoff might. Of course, that has not happened. I think it will be fascinating to kind of predict how tight a series can be between the Thunder against either the Pacers or the Knicks. Personally, I bet Indiana to win an NBA championship, hoping for a shorter number by the time they reach that championship set, more than likely against OKC. Personally, I believe Indiana, with all of its depth and balance, gives a very talented OKC team with all of its depth and balance a little bit of a tougher test. But it will be interesting to see what those final odds are for the Thunder. They'll be an overwhelming favorite against either the Pacers or the Knicks.
Yeah, exactly. Take a look at the 1-0 series lead for Indiana. We're expecting a long series and still looking at maybe the Knicks could be the favorite if they win again, just to force it to a game number 3, which then will be 1-1 in Indiana. But you take a look at the Thunder every single day that they win a basketball game, and maybe that series will be extended for the Pacers and the Knicks. That goes higher and higher and higher. Now, granted, there's going to come to a price point where it can't go too high, but just the fact that you have the Pacers and the Knicks, where the Pacers have the advantage right now, and a 2-0 series lead for the Thunder, that's where I see those high prices, because we're just estimating move the Thunder into the finals. And as we say, you can't win the finals unless you actually get there, and we don't know who's actually coming out of the East. But those numbers will come back into focus depending on any injuries and the length of either one of these 2 series.
Absolutely so, DRS. More NBA news yesterday. The interim head coach at altitude is now the permanent head coach of the Denver Nuggets. David Adelman, who took the reins after Denver shockingly dismissed Michael Malone with only 3 games remaining in the regular season, went a perfect 3-0 with the Nuggets to wrap up a top 4 seed in the Western Conference. Of course, won their first round series in 7 games against the LA Clippers, took OKC to a 7th game in round number 2. There's a chance the Nuggets are the most competitive team against Oklahoma City in these NBA playoffs. But David Adelman, now the new head coach of the Denver Nuggets.
And probably look even better if OKC takes down the championship. Hey, man, got fired, came into a tough situation, went a couple rounds in the playoffs, lost in game number 7 to the eventual champions. And also, you are going to go far as a coach, because if you get the backing of the players, like, hey, how was he in meetings? How was he getting your preparation? And you just asked Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. If they give the blessing, you knew he was going to be that head coach, and it's no surprise that he is. Now the question is, how long can he last in Denver? Because the honeymoon phase of, yeah, we went to the playoffs and yeah, we lost, that doesn't hold up in year number 2 when you get to the playoffs and lose again and all that pressure comes back. But there's no fault. We were expecting him to be the head coach, and he's now the head coach.
Absolutely so, DRS. I thought what you said right there, getting the blessing of Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and the rest of the players in that organization, probably the key difference for David Adelman, because that seemed to be based on reporting the schism and the issue with Michael Malone, despite leading the Nuggets to an NBA championship now just 2 years ago. How quickly that fades into memory. David Adelman, the son of Rick Adelman, longtime and successful NBA head coach, most notably with the Sacramento Kings. But now that's Doug Christie territory, the interim head coach in Sacktown, the permanent head coach. David Adelman, the interim head coach in Denver, now the permanent head coach at altitude as well. Let's talk some college football and some changes for the 2025 college football playoff next.
buy or sell Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. That's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams needed a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good at any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today. Would Hunter Brown win the American Cy Young Award? I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
A football Friday ahead of Memorial Day weekend here in late May. Maybe, just maybe, to end out this opening hour today on the early line on SportsGrid. Some dramatic changes yesterday, DRS, as maybe we hoped and even expected for the 2025 college football playoff. What happens next year in 2026 and beyond, that remains to be seen. But for the 12-team format, in our second year of 12 teams, we will now go to straight seeding. It's what many people asked for, looking at how the format played out in the debut year of a 12-team college football playoff bracket. Instead of the weird bracket versus rankings, it's just straight seeding. So, unlike last year, when the 4 highest-ranked conference champions earned an opening round bye, advancing immediately to the college football playoff quarterfinals, now the 5 highest-ranked conference champs retain that automatic bid to the CFB. But once we get the 12 teams in the field, it is just a straight seeding based on the rankings from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. DRS, what is your reaction to this change for 2025?
I mean, we're getting there. And like I always like to say, the odds makers are usually the smartest people in the room. Well, the College Football Competition Committee, the NCAA Competition Committee, basketball, and also football, they're the stupidest people in the room every single year because they don't understand the task at hand. Where if you would just put, like, I'm not even talking about coaches, put, your casual fan that understands the game and how it's supposed to work and say, hey, guys, if we came up with a playoff formula, how would it work? We would all get it correct. But every time the NCAA committee, which is so out of touch with reality, gets in there and messes it up and always has to auto-correct and come back like, yeah, we messed that one up, but we can't reopen this playoff for another 6 years because the TV contract, when everybody knows exactly the way it's supposed to go. So I will give them credit for this. They understand the error that they made, which was so simple to correct in the beginning. They were too stupid to do it. Or at least we're making that change now. But now, as I see it going in, and we're only on, the 12, we go to 16 and 24, which is great. More teams in the playoffs, more meaningful football. It will be great. We'll get to that point in just a second. But now we're still at the point where you say to yourself, all right, well, where did we err last year? We gave every team a bye. They all lost the next week here. Well, also, you gave them a week off, and they're playing against good football teams. But also, at the same time, you put these teams that were technically lower seeds, quote unquote, than the teams that were actually playing because they were better football teams, but you gave them no advantage whatsoever. Hey, guys, here's your advantage. You get a bye. And they go, great, man. It's going to be fun to play at home after a bye and crush this next football team. Oh, no, you're going to be able to bye. That team's going to come in red hot, and it's going to be neutral site, and they all lost. No shame in that, but at least if you're the bye is not a reward. Give them a bye with a home game. What's wrong with that?
From a revenue perspective, Donnie, that was one of the parts of this conversation. How would they make it more incentivized for the ACC, the Big 12, and the Group of 5 conferences that can compete for that college football playoff spot? Because the Big 10 and the SEC were the vocal leaders trying to get rid of the guaranteed opening round buys for the 4 highest-ranked conference champs, because based on last year's rankings at the end of conference championship weekend, the 2 conference title games that we had in the Big 10 and the SEC would have occupied all 4 of the top spots. That would have been Oregon, champions of the Big 10, Georgia, champions of the SEC, and then Texas and Penn State, the losers of both of those conference championship games in those top 4 seeds, all earning an opening round bye. So it was revealed yesterday, the College Football Playoff Executive Board still going to grant the 4 highest ranked conference champs, so they'll still have that distinction, the $8 million bonus they get for that financial incentive. And of course, the deeper you go into the college football playoff, the more financial reward for your athletic department and your conference as a whole. So automatically playing in the college football playoff quarterfinal, that a higher revenue stake. That is always a part of the reality of the situation. But to DRS's point, this is helpful. This makes the most common sense, which oftentimes college football leaders do not look to first and foremost. Could there still be changes to perfect this format? For sure. Really, Donnie, another conversation is, does it even truly matter? Because a part of what was discussed yesterday on this phone call, not just straight seating for 2025, but further conversations about 2026 and beyond and what that might look like with all the rumors and speculation. We expand to 14 or 16 teams with 4 automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten and the SEC, all in the name of that holy and mighty TV dollar based on TV partnerships.
Yes, but it also makes sense. Like we don't. This isn't like 1950s again. Like look at college basketball. We don't care who wins the regular season in the Big Ten outside of the team that wins it, right? We don't care who wins the Big Ten championship unless it meant like we're a bid steal and we weren't supposed to get into the NCAA championship. You know what we care about? March Madness and the 64, 68 teams that get into it here. Who is going to be that champion? But you know what, Ben? When they win that championship, we go, that's the national championship. What a great year. We can all recognize this. Like we are not far removed where we voted on a national champion in college football. How stupid that actually sounds. So at least now you through the BCS era, which lined up the 1s and the 2, but still 1 versus 2 is crazy. Then we got the 4 teams, which is stupid, but at least we're on the right path to having a pretty good response. But now you're right about the revenue, but the NFL makes it work. Hey, man, we can't have Kansas City host 2 home games. That's not fair. No, they make it work here. The dollars will be the dollars. And also if you ask a school, like let's just say Penn State, hey, you know what? We're just going to go into this where every home team has to split the revenue with the away team. You know what Penn State will say? Fantastic. Give me every single home game because I'm the coach. Well, I'm going to win more games. I'll get a bigger contract. We'll get put on a bigger stage, and the school will get even bigger because you're on that national stage heading into deep playoff runs year after year with home field advantage, which should matter here. We're getting close to being perfect, but still, that whole meshing and we love bowl season, which doesn't mean a damn thing anymore. Eradicate bowl season, put 24 teams in the playoff, and if you want to have secondary bowls that we can bet on and watch as fodder as we wait for the college football champion to be rewarded, I'm okay with that. But the Rose Bowl doesn't have to be involved in this. We don't have to have number 2s. Everybody should be at home. But Ben, the Rose Bowl, live from Penn State. What's wrong with that? We'll still call it the Rose Bowl. Just have it at Penn State.
Yeah, I hear the point, and I think in college football fandom, those on-campus sites, you cannot argue that playing at a neutral NFL stadium for a bowl game is a better atmosphere for this cherished sport. But that's why it is what it is starting in the quarterfinal round because of the New Year's 6 bowls and what they mean revenue-wise. I agree. More on the early line next.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
Boston knew they were in trouble, Tom, but the most important thing is they fed off of their crowd, and in that third quarter, when Boston could have made a run, the Knicks just put that one last run together to put the game away.
So it was good to see them, to round this all together, good to see them finally put all the pieces in place to close out the series and say, yes, we are playing our best basketball, because that's what they're going to need against the Pacers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
If you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, there's, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for? Another 2 to 3 years. He's either in or he's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Tom, it's like you can't tell, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose.
Frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid, a Friday ahead of Memorial Day weekend, a football Friday to end out this opening hour here on TEL. DRS, a big couple of weeks in the National Football League. Schedule release last week, NFL owner meetings this week, and because of it, the early offseason program has begun. So guys in facilities this week, going through workouts, getting back on the practice field, and in Detroit, Aiden Hutchinson making his way back to the turf as well. A significant leg injury last year that shortened his season after only 5 full games, which of course was a huge story for the Lions all year long. The significant and devastating injuries, namely defensively, that was too much for Detroit to overcome in that divisional round game against the Commanders. But good news, early in the offseason in the Motor City, Aiden Hutchinson has been cleared to resume football activities. Let's hear from Hutch himself.
I got cleared a while back, and now I'm just I'm rolling with the boys now, and it feels like I'm back to being myself again. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the season. I'm looking forward to. I think this is the most excited I've been for OTAs in my life. This is the biggest hiatus I've had without playing ball, so I'm pumped.
Sensational early on, DRS, in his year and a half in the National Football League. Aiden Hutchinson excited for year number 3. And obviously, if he can remain healthy, a fearsome pass rusher, that does a lot to elevate Detroit's status.
He was a monster last year before he got injured. Like, who knows how many sacks he would actually put up on the season. Fantastic, got a high motor. But also say this, like, we saw the videos coming out, Ben, and to me, it's like, hey, man, Hutch is coming back. Dude looked like he couldn't run. Like, I know what they're posting. Yeah. I'm getting closer. And even the latest video, like, oh, Hutch looks good. Does he look good? Like, they're posting, like, Nick Chubb videos. Hey, look at how hard he's working out. Guy looks like he's dragging his leg behind him. I hope all the best for Hutchinson because that guy's an absolute menace. But from what I've seen so far, it don't look like he's back yet. Now, we are talking in May. Still got June and July and August till September. Maybe that leg gets even better. But I was looking at the workouts that he was doing like, yeah, he's running, but my goodness, he is laboring with that leg.
3 years in the NFL, my apology, about to be year number 4 for Aiden Hutchinson. During week 6 last year, that significant leg injury fractured both his tibia and his fibula, basically the 2 large bones that anchor the entirety of your ankle throughout your knee, even to the upper thigh. So when you fracture both in the way that Aiden Hutchinson did, thus a serious injury and a long recovery. The fact he has already been cleared, great. But of course, still going to build that up, DRS, as he gets ready for 2025.
Yeah.
And to Donnie's point, only 5 full games last year for the Lions, had 7.5 sacks. In those first 5 games, he was on an absolute heater and a tear to start the year for the Lions. And Donnie, Detroit is a fascinating team to me, once again, entering 2025, because largely the cast and crew remains the same. And some of those injuries they had last year, if they can be healthy this year, that's a huge and significant bump for Detroit. Not just Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil on the interior of that defensive line as well. But when you look at the Lions and their win total of 10.5 this year, that's great. The under has the juice, the second best price to win the NFC, only behind the reigning champs in the Philadelphia Eagles. It does feel as though there is not nearly as much optimism as there should be for a 15-2 football team a season ago. And part of that, of course, is because of the turnover in their coordinators. Ben Johnson, the head coach in Chicago, Aaron Glenn, the head coach in New York.
Yeah, the brawn is still with the organization. The brains, they're gone. Offensively, maybe the best offensive coordinator in football, innovative as all get out. You're not going to replace that. And you had a defensive coordinator that really had to look. He was playing with 2 hands tied behind his back with all the injuries that they had, and it completely fell apart in the playoffs. But now let's see what Dan Campbell can do, because I know he has the ear of that football team. He brought Detroit football back. That's fantastic. But now it's up to him to resurrect that offense and defense here with 2 new voices in the locker room. That's always tough to do. Hey, remember when the Philadelphia Eagles should have beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, lose a couple coordinators here? What do we do the next year? Completely fall apart because a lot of the brains had left the organization. We're not knocking and saying they can't win or can't win 11 games or make a run to an NFC championship game or even win a Super Bowl. But that's why we're a little bit down on them, because Ben Johnson was dialing up bangers every single week, every single drive. That's not there. You can't replicate it. I don't care if you have the same offensive personnel.
John Morton, the new OC for Detroit. Kelvin Shepard, who had worked as part of Aaron Glenn's defensive staff, is the new defensive coordinator. If they have success, though, those numbers might be discounted. Hour number 2 up next.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
Boston knew they were in trouble, Tom, but the most important thing is they fed off of their crowd, and in that third quarter, when Boston could have made a run, the Knicks just put that one last run together to put the game away.
So it was good to see them, to round this all together, good to see them finally put all the pieces in place to close out the series and say, yes, we are playing our best basketball, because that's what they're going to need against the Pacers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
If you believe he should be in the Hall of Fame, there's, let's let him wait another 2 years. Wait, he's already dead at this point. Like, what are you waiting for? Another 2 to 3 years. He's either in or he's out. And sometimes you look at that too, Tom. It's like you can't tell, the history of Major League Baseball without Pete Rose.
Frankly, the writers have some standard that they want to hold players to, which seems to fluctuate on a player-to-player basis. So he should be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not sure how quickly he'll get there.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on Sport.